Margaret Eisen for vet bills.
All right, court come to order.
Be seated, please.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy.
Hello, Judge. Case 1057, Mardell versus Galicia Isaac.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Mr. Galicia was your roommate.
Correct.
Judy smiles at a small dog.
Cute puppy. I assume that's Puka.
That is Puka, yeah.
When did you and Mr. Galicia move into this apartment together? You were roommates.
So I was already the leaseholder in the house, and he moved in December of 2019.
Were either of these two gentlemen witnesses to the event which resulted in injury to Puka?
No, Your Honor.
What's the purpose of their being here?
They were both witnesses to the conversation that I had with Christian regarding seeking to pay for the damages for her vet bill.
All right, it's your claim in this action that the defendants, both of them, including Ms. Eisen, who was visiting your house on that day, you were not at home,
Correct.
should be held responsible for Puka's vet bills because it was as a result of their negligence that she broke her paw.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
okay. And this injury happened to the dog on what date?
It was April 8th, 2020.
You were not at home.
No.
When you left the house on April 8th of 2020, you know what you could do, sir? You can take the dog outside.
Okay.
And if we need you, I'll call one witness and then I'll call you. You can go out that way. Dog is cute.
A young man leaves with Puka.
When you went out April 8th, was Mr. Galicia there?
I think he was at home when I left, yeah.
When you left the home on April 8th, where did you put Puka?
She was in my room with the door closed, which is where she lived.
Tell me how you found out she was injured.
I received a phone call, and
From whom?
from Christian, and he told me that they had taken Puka out of the room to play with her, that they had set her up on this bar stool to keep her still, and that she had fell onto the ground.
Who had placed Puka on the bar stool?
They did not
Okay.
specify.
Okay, he said they placed her on the bar stool and she slipped off.
She slipped and fell. She's very animated, so she was about 3 months old at the time, so she was very wiggly. Yeah,
But he said they had placed her on a bar stool.
correct.
And she slipped off.
Yeah, she fell.
You went home?
Actually, they had told me that she had a serious injury because she was very upset, and I think it was her arm looked funny.
So they took her to the vet.
They sent me the information of a vet. They had looked up an emergency vet in Berkeley, and I immediately got in my car and drove to meet them at the vet.
So you took her to the vet.
Yeah, we did. I had called her once, and then on the second time, she decided to come and join us. But the first time, she had explained, oh, just wait until I arrive, and then we can take her to the vet.
Okay. Did you, in fact, Mr. Galicia, telephone the plaintiff and let her know that you were taking the puppy out of her room and placed her on a bar stool from which she fell off? Did you say that to her?
So,
That's either a yes or a no.
no,
What did you tell her?
I told her that,
No, look at me.
okay, I told her that the dog had been let out by us, and when we were
Look at me.
setting up to go to work out, the dog was running around, had a lot of energy, and as a result, we tried to control the dog.
Mr. Galicia, it's always easier, Mr. Galicia, to tell me the direct story the first time. Do you understand? It's less embarrassing. Believe me, it's less embarrassing. So I'm going to put an eraser on the last 3 minutes of your fumfering. Did you tell the plaintiff that we put the puppy on a bar stool, she slipped off, I think she broke her paw. Her paw looks funny. Did you tell her that?
We told her that the dog was
No.
had energy.
No, you didn't tell her that the dog had energy. That's a lie. That's a lie. That would not have been a reason for an emergency call. The dog has a lot of energy. Do you understand, Miss Eisen? You want me to make this easier for you? Were you present when Mr. Galicia called the plaintiff?
I was. I was on the phone calling vets at the time.
Did you overhear the conversation?
Bits and pieces, not the whole thing.
Did you and/or Mr. Galicia, in fact, take this energetic little dog and put her on a bar stool?
No.
Tell me what happened.
We let Puka out of the room. She was running around. She tried to jump for the stool. She missed and broke her paw.
Did you, Mr. Galicia, offer to pay part of the vet bill?
Yes.
if the incident happened as you both are suggesting to me, that's not your fault. If, on the other hand, you let the dog out and you were trying to exercise and you were trying to calm her down and put her up on the bar stool so that you could continue with your workout, which is what you were doing, you would be responsible. Yes.
Your Honor, I just want to say that there was no precedent for them to even go in my room and take my dog out.
I don't care about that. Okay. I don't care about that, actually. You have a puppy in the room, you're not home, you don't even know if he's home. The puppy hears other people outside crying and whimpering to come outside. That's very annoying. Aside from everything else, it's very annoying and unkind, actually, to the dog, in addition to the other people who live in the house. I mean, you get a dog, you're supposed to be around all the time or take it with you. So I don't care what your rules are. I'm just trying to visualize. I've had puppies all my life. You know, they'll try to jump up on a couch or they'll try to jump up, but it just doesn't make sense to me for a puppy to try to jump up on a bar stool and then fall. It makes sense to me that the puppy fell off the bar stool. It also doesn't make sense to me putting a puppy on a bar stool. Do you have any other evidence to show me that that's how the dog was injured?
No, only what they told me on the phone.
Okay. You went to the vet.
Correct.
You met them at the vet. Both of them.
Yes,
Who paid the vet bill?
I did.
What conversation did you have, if any, with them at the vet?
You know, it was during COVID, and I had to give the dog to the nurse at the door, and they took her inside,
Yes.
and I had to wait outside.
So you met them at the vet, you saw the puppy was injured, the vet took the puppy, and then there's a period of time that all three of you were standing there.
Yes.
Now at that time, look at me, at that time, a normal person, you look like a normal person, would have said, tell me exactly what happened.
Zoe nods.
Really, tell me exactly what happened. So you had to have had a discussion. Now I want you to be very careful what you tell me. Tell me what the discussion was that you had with them while waiting for Puka to be examined by the vet.
The conversation was brief. They said, do you want us to wait here with you? Because I had to wait outside, and I was in my car, they were in their car. I said, no, I don't want you to wait. You can just go back to the house, and I'll wait here to see what happens with Puka. That was the end of the conversation, because he had already told me what happened on the phone.
Well, on the phone you say that they were working out and they put Puka on a bar stool, the dog fell off.
Yeah, they placed her on there for some, I don't know why, and she fell, and that her arm was broken as a result.
Well, they didn't know her arm was broken. They said it was injured.
I mean, if there's a picture of Puka when I handed her to the vet and her arm's like this, I mean.
So they were concerned enough to take her. The normal question would be, why did you place her on the bar stool? That would be a question that I would say immediately. What was she doing on a bar stool?
I wasn't indignant in the moment. I was just trying to decide what the next step was, get her to the vet. She wasn't at the vet. She was suffering.
Oh, no.
She was in pain.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm not discarding that. I'm just saying to you, if one of my children or one of my grandchildren was playing with one of my puppies when I had a puppy and said to me, I put the puppy on a bar stool, because I have bar stools in my house, and she fell off and it looks like she broke her leg, my first reaction would be, what the hell were you thinking when you put the dog on a bar stool? You see, that would be my first reaction, but I could be a vicious person.
Sarah smiles. Caption coming up.
My question to you is today the first time, because you all lived together for months, is today the first time that you heard this different version of the events of April 18th?
Yes, today is the first time I'm hearing a totally different
version.
Yes.
Christian shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Zoe, Christian, and Margaret.
Zoe Endelel says her former roommates, Christian Galicia and his friend, Margaret Eisen, are responsible for vet bills after Zoe's puppy broke her leg.
Now, it would be like saying, I put the dog on a shelf in the living room, and the dog fell off the shelf in the living room. Your first question is, what did you put the dog on a shelf for?
I agree.
But you didn't ask that question. That's what you say. They say that the dog made a leap and broke its foot. I think that what you're doing is, because I've read your complaint, what you're saying is it was a result of them taking the dog out of the bedroom in opposition to what you had instructed them to do with the dog, which was leave the dog in your room. That sounds to me more plausible reason for you to think that they're responsible for the vet bill. That as a result of their playing with the dog, if the dog was in the bedroom, the dog would not have been injured, and therefore they took the dog out of the bedroom, therefore they're responsible for the vet bill. Well, that would have been plausible for me to say, well, she could think that. But it has to be a big leap for me to say, I put the dog on a shelf and the dog fell off the shelf and broke its paw, and I, as the owner of a 3-month-old puppy, didn't say to you, at that moment it would have come out instinctively. Where was your brain when you put the dog on the shelf? If that's what they said. Now you can stand up.
A young man rises.
Your last name?
Suckelman?
Okay, so were you privy to any conversation between the plaintiff and either of the defendants where either of them acknowledged that they put the dog on a stool?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Sure. I had my door creaked open, and I suddenly heard Puka scream. I came out as a normal reaction saying, what's going on? And they were huddled around Puka, and they said that
Look at me.
Sure. They said that they had set Puka on the stool because they were doing an exercise. And she was, running around, scampering around. They needed to set her down. So they set her on the stool so that they wouldn't interrupt their workout. And
Just a second, who told you that?
they did.
Who's the they? I mean, they're
They-
both talking at the same time?
No, Christian explained this to me, and she was also present.
She was present.
Yes, they were working out.
Just a second.
Sure.
I want you to go back and tell me they were huddled around Puka.
Mm-hmm.
You came in, you said, what happened?
Yes.
Okay. And Christian said to you,
Christian said to me that the reason that they had set Puka on the stool was because she's a high-energy dog. She scampers around. They're doing push-ups or sit-ups or whatever kind of workout they're doing, and it's being interrupted by the dog because the dog is very affectionate and wants attention. So this closest object to them.
did he say all this to you?
Yes.
He said all of this to you. And he said, and the closest object was the stool.
Yes.
Mr. Galicia, you recall that conversation?
No, I do recall Jimmy coming out.
Right here.
I do recall Jimmy coming out after Puka had injured herself. And at that time, that's when I told Jimmy that Puka had injured herself.
No, he asked you what happened.
Yeah.
He says that you told him that you were doing exercises and she was very affectionate, so you were trying to do push-ups and you set her on the stool so that she wouldn't be licking your face or... He says you told him that.
And I have to disagree with him.
What did you tell him? He came out. You remember he came out.
I told him that Puka was running around, went for the stool, jumped for the stool, and as a result injured herself.
That's what you told him. Okay, now, this is my next question. So during the time that you were there, this incident happened on April 18th. The dog went to the vet. Vet had a bill. So you all must have been present in the house during conversations that you had over payment of the bill.
Yes.
And there had to be at some point, other than today, that Mr. Galicia said that it wasn't his fault the dog jumped at the stool. In what period of time after the dog was injured did you have these discussions in the house when he said, that's not what I said, that I set her up there? Or are you telling me that this is the first time you're hearing the story?
Well, it's the first time I'm hearing it being denied and, fabricated.
Okay. Tell me what you heard on the day it happened.
I was in my room.
No, you told me that.
Okay.
You told me that.
Right.
And then you came outside and you told me what he told you.
Correct.
That's a different story from what he's telling today. My question to you is today the first time, because you all lived together for months, is today the first time that you heard this different version of the events of April 18th?
Yes. Today is the first time I'm hearing a totally different
version.
Version, yes.
Okay. How many times had you discussed as roommates what happened on that day after April 18th?
I believe the way it went is that Zoe requested payment and it wasn't happening. And so I, being a roommate, I stepped in and offered to be a mediator. I said, can I sit down? Maybe we should have a talk as roommates and just have a discussion.
Do you remember when that was?
Pinpointing the exact date, I mean...
A month?
Yeah, a few weeks later.
A few weeks later?
Yeah, and that was after repeated attempts
to get the vet bill paid.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
I'm not asking you.
Oh.
So you said I'm a roommate. Maybe I could be a mediator.
Correct.
Let me hear about this mediation.
It was essentially similar to what we're doing today. Zoe explained her feelings, her situation, and Christian did the same.
Well, I want you to tell me exactly what Christian said.
It was a discussion of logic. It was, were you here and did you put Puka on the stool? Yes or no? And when he said yes, we said, well, then what in your mind makes you think that after Puka had the accident that you are not liable for that damage which you caused? Mm-hmm. It was a simple discussion.
Okay, and what was his response?
Caption coming up.
It's $2,500 on you unless one of you wants to acknowledge that I was the one that put the dog on the stool. Two people don't take a puppy that weighs 3 pounds and put the puppy on a stool. One genius does that.
Zoe smirks. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Zoe, Christian, and Margaret.
Zoe Embelel has accused former roommates Christian Galicia and his friend Margaret Eisen of injuring her puppy, claiming they put the puppy on a bar stool.
Okay, and what was his response?
At the end of the discussion, I was actually quite surprised because I felt like if we can just talk to him rationally, that he might respond.
So you went through the scenario of, well, if you acknowledge that you put Puka on the stool and that she fell and was injured, what logical reason do you have for not being responsible for her injury, ergo being responsible for the bill? So that was your argument.
Yes.
And I want you to think, if you can, what his response was.
I remember his response. His response was simply, I'm not responsible for it. That was it. It was cut and dry. He didn't explain his situation or his emotions. It was just, I'm not responsible for it. And, you know, that was it.
Okay. You remember that conversation, sir?
I remember having a conversation with them. Yes.
Yes, this sort of mediation intervention. You remember that? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
And let me start by telling you, I find his version of what he just said to me with regard to this mediation, I find it not only plausible, but very intelligent people sitting down and trying as roommates to resolve something. So he said to you, which I believe, can you state a reason why, given the fact that you acknowledge that you put Puka on the stool and she fell off and injured her paw, what reason do you have for not feeling that you are responsible? That would involve an answer. He says that your response was, I don't feel I'm responsible. Was your answer more lengthy than that?
I told them that I did not feel responsible because the dog had injured herself. The day of, the dog was super energetic.
And I don't want to hear the day of. Is that what you said to him at this meeting?
Yes.
You said to him, I don't feel I'm responsible because that day the dog was super energetic and
because originally there was no conversation ever held about me being responsible for the dog. I have actual proofs of Zoe saying that she takes full responsibility of the dog.
she wasn't home.
Yeah, no, this was a previous text message. I was concerned that my deposit for the apartment.
I'm asking you a simple question. In response to his question, which I actually believe that he put to you, there was no denial of the fact I didn't put the dog on the stool. You said, I just don't feel responsible. No. And what you're saying to me is, so you did have that discussion.
Yes.
And this is the first time that you're hearing this story of the dog jumped for the stool instead of being put on a shelf. This is the first time you're hearing this story?
This is the first time I'm hearing an alternate version of that story.
Okay. Can I see your vet bills, please?
Zoe hands documents to Kevin.
I just wanted to say that she had to go for multiple treatments over the course of her arm healing. So it was not all at one time. It was over the course of a couple months.
No, I just want to see what the whole total vet bill was.
Yes, Your Honor.
Judy reviews the bills.
Did you add up these figures?
Yes.
What are they?
$2,550.25.
Your bill.
Right.
Your bill, unless either one of you want to tell me that it was me that put the dog on the stool.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
It's $2,500 on you unless one of you wants to acknowledge that I was the one that put the dog on the stool. Two people don't take a puppy that weighs 3 pounds and put the puppy on a stool. One genius does that. So unless one of you wants to acknowledge which one of you geniuses did that, then you're both responsible for the vet bill. Anybody want to step forward? No? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Court is adjourned.
Christian, then Zoe.
Honestly, I'm very shocked about the judge's decision.
Well, I'm just really grateful that she was able to see that their story was completely ridiculous and they were obviously responsible.
And ultimately, it's not our dog, and accidents happen with puppies.
That was horrible, and once I saw her and the way that her arm looked, and you know, she was so pathetic running around with the cast.
We had let her out because the dog had been crying, had been whining, and had been neglected a lot.
It was a horrible experience, and I'm just really glad that we're finally able to have someone take some responsibility.
This was a common thing that she would leave for hours and hours. The dog was crying. We didn't feel it was any kind of wrongdoing to take her out of the room and let her out.
I feel like that's the only sane thing to do. You know, I mean, we're roommates, we're friends. You know, you caused the incident. You should just step up and pay it.
I love Puka. She's such an adorable dog.
Sarah and Judy.
That case was a great demonstration of how common sense and logic can play a huge role in your decision making on a case. Just logically speaking, what would your gut reaction be? What would your next question be?
You know, I went back and forth, as you saw in that case, because my initial reaction, I guess I'm always looking for a culprit, but then I listened to her roommate, and her roommate was compelling. He was so clear, and it clearly would have been at that point in the question that the defendant would have said, it's not my fault because the dog jumped.
Petrie is suing her former neighbors, Anthony Opalencia and Katie Molnix, for vet bills and emotional distress resulting from a dog fight.
Court come to order.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Case number 1172, Petrie versus Opalencia, Munich.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Petrie, this is your son.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's his first name?
Zion.
Zion's 12,
Yes,
and you got him a puppy.
correct.
When?
May of 2019.
What kind?
I'm not quite sure.
Zion, would you stand up? Because even your mom wasn't a witness to this dog incident. Zion, what kind of a dog did your mom buy you?
He's a Frenchie and then I believe a Terrier Falcon.
Do you have a picture of it?
Yes.
May I see it, please? When you say a Frenchie, you mean a French bulldog?
Yes.
Pamela hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews a photo of a tan, mid-sized dog.
And how much does he weigh, do you know?
Right now, he currently weighs 12 pounds.
An incident happened on the 15th of April.
Yes.
You weren't present during that incident.
No, Your Honor.
Would you change places with Zion? I want him to be right in the middle. Zion, you were out walking your dog. Dog's name is?
Tony.
You were walking him on a leash.
Yes.
At what time of day?
Like afternoonish.
Okay. Now, you're walking Tony, and he was on a leash. And what happened next?
Me and my friend, we were walking, going onto the trail, and then...
Okay, so you were with a friend.
Yes.
Explain to me where the trail is.
It's like if you go from my house directly down from the Lion Fountain, and then you take a left, and that's how we were going onto the trail.
Where did the defendants live?
They
You have the
live...
pictures?
I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see them so I can get some idea of what you're
Yes.
talking about.
So you can, Your Honor, so you can get a full visual. Zion was walking this
Hey, no,
way.
no.
Oh, I'm
no,
sorry.
no, no. You can't tell me where he was
okay,
walking.
I'm
You
sorry.
weren't there.
Yes.
Just hand me the photographs.
Pamela hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
Thank you.
She reviews an image of residential buildings.
Zion, is this the complex where you live?
No.
Is this the complex where the defendants live?
Yes.
You live on the first floor or the second floor?
Second.
Second floor.
We did, yeah.
Okay. And this is the trail where you were going to walk with Tony. Don't shake your head. You weren't there. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Otherwise, you could sit. As a matter of fact, it's better. Sit down.
Pamela sits.
Zion, this is where you were going to walk with Tony?
Yes.
Did you have to pass the defendant's house in order to get to the trail?
Yes.
And your dog was on the leash?
Yes.
Tell me what happened as you passed their house.
So as I passed, like, me and my friend were going on a trail, and then from behind us, the pit bull, it came running at my dog, and before I could really react, he had a hold of his neck, like he was just like shaking him, and then I was yelling at him to stop, like I was in shock, and then by the time he stopped with his neck, he immediately moved like by his thigh, and then he started gripping it, and then we were all yelling at him to stop, and then by that time...
When you say you were all, so I have you and your friend.
Yes.
Were either of these two people there?
Her.
You?
Yes, ma'am.
She came after her dog?
Yes, she was there.
When their pit bull grabbed onto your dog, was she there?
Yes.
Was the pit bull on a leash?
No.
Was your dog injured?
Yes.
How did the pit bull finally let go of your dog?
A man was walking down the trail. He parked his dog. He had to punch the dog a few times, and then the dog finally loosened its grip.
He punched the pit bull?
Yes.
Did you know who the man was?
I think my mom got in contact with him.
Now you can stand up. Did you find out who the man was?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you speak with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
How did you find his name?
There's a group called Neighborhood Group on social media for our community, and I had asked for the gentleman who stepped in and helped my son if you could please reach out to me. And he announced himself and who he was, and so we got together at that time.
Got it. Sit down.
Pamela sits.
You weren't home at the time of this alleged attack.
No, ma'am.
Who was this?
It's my girlfriend, Katie.
Your girlfriend was home with your pit bull.
Yes, ma'am.
And at the time I'm reading these papers, you were under house arrest.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And you were wearing an ankle bracelet.
Yes, I was.
And you live on the second floor.
Yes, I do.
So you let the pit bull out to relieve itself because you couldn't go out because you had an ankle bracelet on because you were under house arrest.
Yes, Your Honor.
The pit bull walked down the stairs by itself.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this your apartment?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you were standing here when the dog ran out, was unleashed. By the time you got to where the dog had Zion's dog, tell me what you did to get the dog off Zion's dog.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, when I
look at me. Don't look there, and make sure you know I know everything.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
So now you're on the second floor. You've got an ankle bracelet. You're not allowed to leave the house, so you let the pit bull out by himself. He runs and attacks his dog. Do you either hear or see?
Neither, Your Honor. I was out there before the attack even happened. And I
now look at me.
I let him know that that my dog was out there loose, and I was going to get I was trying to get him.
No, just listen to me. Just because you say it fast doesn't mean I miss it. You're on the porch.
Yes.
You let your dog out.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's take it from there, step by step.
So
don't look over there.
I saw him walking his dog, and I went to let him know that my dog was out there, and I was
just
going
a
to
second.
get him.
You saw him walking his dog.
Yes.
With a friend.
Yes, Your Honor.
On a leash.
Yes, Your Honor.
And when you say you let him know, what did you do? Listen, what did you do? Don't cross your arms. What did you do or say to let him know?
I said, hey, my dog's out here loose. I'm trying to get him.
No, let's go slow. Hey, my dog's out loose out here.
And I'm trying to go get him.
And you're going to?
Get him.
And when you say that, you're on the porch.
No, I'm not on the porch at this point. I'm going to get my dog. Is what I'm doing.
Well, why would you let the dog out if you were going to get the dog?
I didn't think I would have to go get the dog. He comes back normally, so I didn't think I was going to have to go get him.
So it is your routine to let the dog out?
Not only when I'm the only one on the bracelet. Only when I was on the bracelet.
In what month were you placed on the bracelet?
No,
don't look at him. May what?
I don't know the exact date, Your Honor.
You don't know the date that somebody put an ankle bracelet on you? How old are you?
34.
How many times have you had an ankle bracelet on?
One.
Well, then I would know the exact date when somebody came and slapped an ankle bracelet on me.
I remember the date I got it off, but
on.
I know. I don't remember the exact date that I got it on.
What date did she get the ankle bracelet on?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that even has to do with anything.
You're not sure?
No.
You're not sure? I'm going to tell you what's sure. What sure is that she says because she was wearing an ankle bracelet, that's the reason she let the pit bull out alone.
Correct.
Well, then it becomes important because she said he usually comes back. That means she's let the pit bull out alone, alone. Now do you understand?
Anthony lowers his eyes. Caption coming up.
200 people died in your state as a result of pit bull attacks.
That's a sad situation.
Yeah, just a second. So you have to be a moron to allow a dog like that around children. You have to be a moron.
Anthony swats with his documents. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Pamela, Zion, Anthony, and Katie.
Pamela Petrie claims her former neighbors, Anthony Opulencia and Katie Molnix, owe for vet bills after their pit bull attacked her son's dog. Anthony is countersuing for threats and harassment.
Okay, what county do you live in and what state?
King County, Seattle, Washington.
Whose pit bull is it?
Mine.
How long have you had it?
About 2 years now.
How long has she been your girlfriend?
About 3 years now.
What kind of work do you do?
I was a maintenance supervisor.
In the complex where you live?
Not that complex, but another property.
Did you get fired?
Yes.
Is that because you had a pit bull?
No.
Why?
Why? Because of her constant harassment, calling corporate.
Are you allowed to have a pit bull?
Yes.
Are you?
I was, yeah.
Let's see. King County.
Your Honor.
Just a second.
So I know January 1st of 2020, the state of Washington undid their initial ban on pit bulls outright. So pit bulls were allowed in the state of Washington and counties were not allowed to ban them outright after January 1st of 2020. But I'm on the Kings County government website to see if there's anything specific.
So when you got the dog, because you said you've had the dog for 2 years, pit bulls were banned in your state. You know how much it takes to ban a dog, to get that through a legislature, to ban a dog? And I don't know why Washington undid the ban, but they did in January. But when you got the dog was a banned dog. And I don't know why you think, because the girlfriend knows she let the dog out. She says, I let the dog out, and I've done it before. Usually comes back. I told him, hey, my dog's out loose. And why you would think that an unmonitored dog, you as the owner, are not responsible for all their vet bills is mind-boggling to me.
I never once said I wasn't responsible for the vet bill.
Oh, well then what are we doing here? You said in your answer, we agreed to split them 50-50 and I paid my half. Why would they split the vet bills with you 50-50 if it's all your fault? Well is not an answer, sir. Well is not an answer. If she's lazy and instead of walking the dog on a leash, a dog that can cause significant damage because the dog might have just as well attacked the child as the dog.
Dog would never attack a child.
Would only attack another dog. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
I have
You
pictures
want me
of
to
my
show
dog.
you?
My
do you
dog
want-
around other dogs around kids.
Well, let me tell you.
It was the actions of that dog.
I want to tell you this.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I have drawers full of letters from grandparents and parents who say, my pit bull is wonderful, I thought. And then one day, it turned. And when a dog that weighs 10 pounds or 12 pounds turns on you and snaps at you, I have a dog that weighs 4 pounds. If I annoy her and she's sleeping and I wake her up and she nips me, which she hasn't done, smart, I would get hurt a little bit. But when a pit bull attacks somebody, they can kill them. And if you choose to have a dog like that and you're a grown man, that would be on you. And if girlfriend over here decides that that's okay, she's a grown woman. But when you subject children to your dog, you're making them take a risk that they didn't ask for. Why would you subject a child, yours or anybody else's, from an animal that's capable of causing serious physical injury? Read the papers. There's a list of dogs in most states that insurance companies won't even insure your house if you have a particular breed of dog. Why do you think they do that? They're in business to make money. And all you pit bull owners out there, I've heard the hate mail. Don't bother. I don't read it.
There's a lot of bad owners out there.
I'm sure that there are terrific pit bull pets that are wonderful. They have the capacity to kill you. They have been known to kill you. I never knew anybody that got killed by a Shih Tzu or a Yorkie or a Chihuahua. Never. But if you go on Google and find out how many deaths and serious physical injuries were caused in the last year by pit bulls, I tell you what we're going to do. Sarah's going to look at it. I've never looked at the number. Don't speak. What you're supposed to do is put a leash on your dog and get your behind out of the house and walk the dog. Because there's no question in my mind that you and boyfriend went out downstairs to the grass area because you actually went out of the house. They didn't come and arrest you for leaving the house, did they, when you ran outside after your dog? No, they didn't arrest you. Oh, right. So you could just as easily have taken the dog out to one of these grass areas that's right near your house to relieve itself. But you were too lazy. Do we have a number?
Well, it looks like out of 430 fatal dog attacks, 185 were caused by pit bulls in the state of Washington.
Not even half.
Just how you know how many hundreds of breeds of dogs there are, you idiot? Do you know how many hundreds of breeds of dogs there are? So practically 50% of the deaths in the state where you live from dog attacks were pit bulls. I want you to look and see how many dog deaths in the state of Washington were caused by chihuahuas in the same period. And your counterclaim for harassment is dependent upon this number. Because if this number is more than 0, I will actually entertain your counterclaim for harassment. Otherwise, I'm tossing it.
Well,
that's
between
crazy.
2005 and 2018 in the entire United States, 2.
From a chihuahua.
Appreciate
For
that.
the entire United States.
I'll take it.
From 2005. 2005?
Until
From 2005. You'll take what?
It's more than 0, what you just said.
Oh, then I'm going to hear your counterclaim. Do you understand? 200 people died in your state as a result of pit bull attacks.
And that's a sad situation.
Yeah, just a second. So you have to be a moron to allow a dog like that around children. You have to be a moron.
I'm not a moron.
Oh, absolutely.
Caption coming up.
Now you have a counterclaim for terroristic threats, loss of employment, moving expenses, and emotional distress.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose, other than mine?
Anthony bristles. Whitney grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Pamela, Zion, Anthony, and Katie.
Pamela Petrie is accusing her former neighbors, Anthony Opulencia and Katie Molnix, of refusing to pay vet bills after their pit bull attacked her son's dog. Anthony says Pamela threatened to shoot their pit bull.
Now, can I see your vet bills, please? Now you can stand up.
Pamela hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
What's the balance that he owes on the vet bills?
Currently, right now, he paid a total of $780 with a remaining balance of $289.
Why did you stop making the payments?
Because I got fired because of her.
Oh, good. $289. Okay, now you have a counterclaim for terroristic threats, loss of employment, moving expenses, and emotional distress.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose, other than mine?
Anthony bristles.
Other than mine. You have to understand something. She's a wrongdoer.
Who's a wrongdoer?
She is.
You don't know that.
She allowed a dog off leash because she was lazy, and she let the dog go out, and the dog attacked another dog. And you recognized your fault because you paid the vet bills to your credit. You paid the vet bills until you said you got fired. The suggestion is you got fired because of her.
It's not a suggestion.
So, just a second. You had a pit bull in the house. She reported it to whomever. Animal control, the management company that you worked at.
Yes, ma'am.
She reported it, which is her right. Other than that, what are you complaining about? It's her right to report that because you maintained a dog in your house and your girlfriend let the dog roam free, not once, but according to her, regularly, that she felt that that created a threat to everybody in the neighborhood. The truth is, so do I. So if you have something to show me about terroristic threats that she did, I'll be more than happy to see that.
I wasn't there when it happened. She was, so.
Terroristic threats.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about the terroristic threats.
After the incident happened, and she came over to talk to me about it. She was just completely freaking out, and I was trying to calm her down, but she's telling me that she brought her gun over with her to shoot my dog in the head, and
she was going to shoot your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see a gun?
I did not see a gun.
Okay. Next. What's next?
What's next is that she continued to call me, separating me from the work I need to do almost daily. At least every other day, she's texting me, calling me. What are you gonna do about this bill? Where's my money at? I stopped answering her, and she starts calling corporate and calling my management company and harassing multiple people on the board there. So they're calling me, telling me to try to smooth the situation out, do what you can to. So okay, I'll do that. But even though I did, She still kept calling, still it wasn't good enough for her.
You count the claims dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of the remainder of the vet bill, which is $289. We're finished here. Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
Anthony.
I'm irate right now.
I just want to say I've been watching Judge Judy for a long time, and I knew that coming here that my case would be heard and justice would be prevailed. Thank you, Judge Judy.
She called the animal control, I think it was like a few days later or a week later or something.
Our dog, he's an all-white dog, so he was just full of blood.
The dog wasn't there by then.
We'd
already gotten rid of him.
You should have your dog on the leash. There's not much to really say about it.
It was scary. I mean, like, it's a horrible thing.
We don't want them hurting other people, nor do we want our dogs being hurt, vice versa. Just please leash your dog up.
Sarah and Judy.
You know, I might have to adjust that number a little bit. As I kept looking for the fatalities caused by dogs, there's so many different accounts and different numbers. But one consistent thing from all of the accounts is that pit bulls did account for a majority of fatalities from dog bites and dog interactions.
It's been my experience here that those people who have dangerous dogs, and there is a couple on that dangerous list, have to be really mindful of the fact that if an animal, and it is an animal, has the capacity to kill, it doesn't mean that it intentionally does that. I mean, if you're a homeowner, and if you can't get homeowners insurance or renter's insurance if you have a particular breed of dog, I would say to myself, doink, there is a reason that insurance companies that are in the business of making money, they have done the math. They understand that eventually they're going to pay out on a claim. So they say, you know what? You want to have that dog? Either you're going to pay a double premium or we won't insure you. And I would say to myself, as a rational human being, there are over 200 breeds of dogs. Find the
Contracts and tow fees.
Court come to order.
Judge Judy enters.
Be seated, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 1093, Airy versus Furtado.
Thank you. Miss Airy, you have a business, and let me see if I can summarize what I understand your business model is. You own a fleet of cars. Not, that's a yes.
Yes.
How many?
How many currently? 6.
And what you do is you lease those cars or rent them, either by the day, by the month, by the week, to drivers who you do not employ. They're their own independent contractors. They pay for the rental of the car. They do trips for you from your client list, and they get to keep a portion of whatever the trip is. Is that the business model?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So let me understand the dynamics of it. Do you rent the cars by the day, week, month?
Daily.
How much do you charge for a day to the driver? You are a driver.
Yes.
How much do you charge a day?
There's different fees. It all
Why?
boils down to about 45% is what the company actually receives.
So they don't actually lease the car from you. You take a percentage of whatever the fares are?
Yes, what the fares are, exactly.
Okay, so they don't, say, pay you $100 plus a percentage. They work in your car, and what they pay you is 45% of whatever they collect that day.
Yes.
Is that the way it works?
No.
Okay, how does it work?
Depending on how she sees that the money is going in for that driver that day, she either pays 65%, 35%, or she decides to do it 50-50, whatever
Okay.
she wants to do.
Okay.
And we are...
So,
Sorry.
but what you don't do is pay her for the car.
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yeah.
How?
It's either depending on if the car was one of the Dodges, $7, maybe $5 a day. If it was one of the Mitsubishis, $10 a day.
So in addition to whatever percentage you pay for the car per day.
Plus $2 for each dispatched call, plus $1 for a deductible a day, and $1 for escrow.
Per day?
Per day.
Does that sound right?
Not all of it.
What part is not right?
Okay. The fee of $2 is actually $1.85. That does fluctuate. I know it's nothing, but if you look at it towards a long period, it is. But everything
Keep
else,
going.
And
everything else is correct.
Everything else is, yes,
So
it's close.
You do, in fact, charge per day to rent the car. That's a yes.
Yes.
And that's a yes,
Yes.
even though it's a minimal amount of money.
Yes.
But you do charge them. Okay. And you, Mr. Furtado.
Yes.
Mr. Furtado had driven your cars for a period of time. For how long, Miss Airy?
Since April of 2020 till July of 18th of 2021.
Had he driven every day, 7 days a week, 5 days a week, 4 days a week? How did it
Usually
work?
5 shifts.
5 shifts, which is 5 days.
Yes.
Correct?
Sometimes.
Okay, sometimes more.
Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending if there was a situation with me.
Okay.
I couldn't drive.
In July of 2021, there was an incident. And according to you, the incident, which will be described to me later, resulted in you calling in Mr. Furtado and telling him that you were placing him on suspension. That's what you say in your complaint. You then say, Mr. Furtado says, then I quit. And you asked him to return the car. He said, you want the car? Come get it, it's in my driveway. When you went to get the car wasn't there. Mr. Furtado told you that it had been towed, that he had called a towing company. He says he called a towing company, pick up the car because he was afraid that you would, I'm telling you what you wrote, that you called towing company because you were afraid that the plaintiff would call the police and report the car stolen. And she said she'd be there in an hour. She wasn't there in an hour, so you called the towing company. So what you're suing for is damage to the car that you say that the defendant did to the car, breach of contract, I don't know what that is, loss of business, tow fees, and harassment of clients. The harassment of clients, the only thing that you allege in your complaint is that he passed out his business cards to drive independently of your company to your clients. That's the only allegation in here, is that correct?
I have a couple of more.
It's the only allegation that's in the complaint with regard to your clients and harassment, unless I'm missing something.
Well, also the harassment could be to another coworker that he worked with, and
oh no, that's not pled in your complaint, so I'm not paying any attention to it. So the harassment of clients, I'm deleting that.
Sherry shakes her head. Caption coming up.
How come you vandalized her car, Mr. Furtado?
Just aggravated with the day.
Got it.
And
okay, honest, aggravated. It costs money to be honest and aggravated sometimes. Okay, I got it.
James shrugs, grins, then shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Sherry and James.
Sherry Airy claims independent contractor James Furtado owes for car damages, breach of contract, and tow fees. James is countersuing, claiming he was wrongfully terminated by Sherry.
Now, I am taking the statement that he did in fact give out his business cards to your clients. I'm taking that as a fact.
yes, but there's also a text stating from one of the clients that he harassed them.
Just a second.
Harassed her.
I'm not taking a text from a client.
Okay.
That's hearsay.
Okay.
What I'm saying is if a person has a claim against the defendant for harassment, that person can file a complaint, and that complaint will be heard by a court. But handing out business cards is not harassment. It may be a violation of a written contract that you have with him, and that I'll of course see, because you do have money owed for breach of contract. But harassment of clients is out. Now, damages to the car. On what date did you pick up the car from the towing company?
I think the 18th, the same evening.
And what damage do you allege was done to the car?
Well, we have a camera system, and it also is connected to a gateway, and he actually ripped it off, cut it off, and the way he ripped it off ruined both equipment to the vehicle. And also...
Well, was it left in the car?
Yes, it was.
It was left in the car, but it was taken apart.
It was cut and pulled.
Yeah, see it, please. See a photograph of it.
Here's pictures of the vehicle.
How long had Mr. Furtado had the car, that particular car?
He's had it a pretty long time, actually, when he started to help out.
Did he have it July 16th?
Yes.
July 14th?
Yes.
Okay, is that correct, sir?
yes,
And this unit that you are referring to was operable on July 14th and 15th.
I have pictures of him actually in the car that same day.
May I see that?
Yes. And also the GPS, which shows that too.
Sherry hands photos and documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them. One depicts a camera with a dangling wire. The other depicts James in a car.
Do you have an estimate to fix these?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see them, please?
So repairs or receipts, I have receipts.
I just want the receipts so far for those two things where the wires were cut.
Okay.
I have copies of the so-called receipts.
Just for the wires that were cut. Okay, gotcha.
Just for the wires that were cut.
Would it be faster for me to get them out?
Sure.
Yeah, it would definitely. Thank you. Jeez, I'm just
This is the only receipt or receipts that I received that has anything to do with the camera.
Okay.
I have more here. I just have to find them.
James hands documents to Kevin. who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
It was $85. Is that correct?
No, 85 was just to check if it was operable any longer.
Labor of installing or servicing, $80.
Okay, what I have here is the cost of the equipment itself.
Just a second. Did you install this yourself, sir?
No, ma'am.
She did.
Yes.
Yeah, but you cut the wires.
Yes.
There's no question that you cut the wires.
I can't argue about that.
I know. Perfect. I got it. Then just show me the paid bill to reinstall, if they had to reinstall.
It has not been reinstalled yet. I have not received the equipment yet.
From whom?
A company that actually...
Oh, how do I know what it costs?
Right here, ma'am.
Okay.
I have the bill, and I also have some other stuff here, too.
Don't give me a lot of other stuff.
Okay.
Stuff I gave up about 15 years ago. Just give me the bill.
Gotcha.
Judy grins at Sarah.
I do have the rate of 5 here at $1,800 and some odd dollars if you need that.
Judy examines a receipt.
How come you vandalized her car, Mr. Furtado?
The wires itself, just aggravated with the day.
Got it.
And
Okay. Honest, aggravated, costs money to be honest and aggravated sometimes. Okay. Now, what other damage do you allege to the car?
Also, he used super glue in the vehicle that damaged a lot of the interior.
Can I see photographs of that?
can I say something about that?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, I had her permission to put up signs because it made it easier for the customers.
I'm not talking about signs. She said you superglued
The
purposefully.
signs. The signs. I superglued the signs.
She's going to show me if it's
Yep.
where signs would ordinarily go.
No problem.
No problem.
Sherry hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
Nah. This isn't acts of vandalism. This is where clearly signs were. Next.
Clearly signs were?
Where signs were. They're Velcro for signs.
He was not given permission to put those up there. There were not signs up there to begin with. Show me a picture of signs that you had in that car.
$547. Breach of contract. What contract did he breach?
Independent contractor agreement that we have that he does not solicit to our...
May I see the contract that you signed with him?
Sherry hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews a non-disclosure and non-compete clause in a contract.
You have a signed agreement with him?
Yes, it's the very back one.
Did you sign this agreement? Is that the way you sign your name, Bob?
It's not the back one. That's
Just
for
a
the
sec.
electronically.
Just a
It's
second.
yes, ma'am. Second to the back one.
Yeah, that's the way he signs his name. That's the way he signs it here. Okay.
Your Honor, I'd like to say something about that, though.
I'm going to read it first.
Okay.
Just a sec. Don't say anything.
No problem.
Judy reviews the contract.
What state do you live in?
Florida.
Sarah, see if you can find anything in the state of Florida for the duration of non-compete clauses in an employment contract. I see in your agreement that he signed, you've put in a 4-year period where he can't go to another company or drive for anyone else.
I downloaded that from Swift Forms.
Oh, well, that's a problem.
Sherry nods. Caption coming up.
Well, it gives you personal information in the event that they want to contact you independently of her, which means that if they contact you independently, you would charge them less than if they went through the company. Okay, so that's going to cost you $10.
Ooh.
That's going to cost you $10.
Whitney grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Sherry and James.
Sherry Airy is accusing independent contractor James Furtado of vandalizing her car after he was suspended. James claims he was wrongfully terminated by Sherry.
I see in your agreement that he signed, you've put in a 4-year period where he can't go to another company or drive for anyone else.
That's usually, I thought that, I downloaded that from Swift Forms.
Oh, well, that's a problem.
Okay.
I actually find that 4-year non-compete clause in this kind of situation unconstitutional. I can understand that if you're a driver and you get fired or discharged or you quit one company, I can absolutely understand the provision in this contract that I guarantee you he didn't read that says he's not allowed to solicit business by handing out business cards. You're not allowed to do that in here.
I understand that.
Okay, that's not harassment.
No.
It says that you're not allowed to solicit business from any of her clients for yourself. That's what it says. Okay, so you can't do that. And for that, I'm going to add probably another $10 to the damage to the car. Did you find anything?
Yeah, so it's a reasonable standard. So
Well, I find if in the state of Florida the standard is a reasonable period of time, I find 4 years totally unreasonable. But most contracts, if you can eliminate one clause that makes otherwise the contract legal, you don't necessarily have to void the entire contract. And there are other provisions in here that clearly lay out the responsibilities of both parties to the contract. So I am deleting because it's an unreasonable period and therefore unconscionable, and therefore depriving the defendant the ability to work and earn a living, the 4 years that you've placed in here. So that part I'm absolutely eliminating. And is that the breach of contract that you were talking about?
Soliciting to the clients that we have in our contact list.
Well, he's not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to use our contact list.
I don't know what contact list she's talking about, but the only kind of soliciting I did was...
Hand out cards.
The cards. But if you look on that card, can I give you this? Doesn't say nothing about a business on that card. It just has my personal information.
Well, it gives you personal information in the event that they want to contact you independently of her, which means that if they contact you independently, you would charge them less than if they went through the company. That's what it means.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so that's going to cost you $10.
May I say
That's
something
going to
else
cost you
about this?
$10.
Ooh.
That's going to cost you $10.
May I say something about this now?
No, not yet.
Okay.
How much did you pay in tow fees to get the car from?
$125. $125.
So far, he owes you $682. That's for the damage to the car from cutting the wires at the maximum price that you gave me, $129 for some other gizmo, $10 for passing out his business cards, which is a no-no, and $125 for towing, because you shouldn't have had the car towed, sir. You had the car towed because you were angry, and she had to spend money to get the car out of towing. Now, you have a counterclaim for wrongful termination. Explain that to me.
I believe that once Miss Sherry says you're suspended, she gets the car back, you're really fired. Because she don't like to fire people.
Well, do you know the reason why she was suspending you?
Just because I made a comment to another driver.
Okay. What was the comment? And what was it about?
It was about how the driver did not put the pictures and condition of the cars at the beginning of the shift like everybody else did. And I just asked her why, and she came back and said, well, it's really none of your business. And then I had another cocky remark I can't say, but it's still...
I would believe
it's still kind of clean, though. It's not really bad, but...
And she said, then you're suspended.
Something very minor, yeah.
Okay. And then you said, I quit.
I've been telling her for months, I don't play the suspension game. If you're going to work me, work me. If not, that'll be the day I quit. She knew that.
Okay, well, don't tell me what you knew. Did you say I quit?
Yes.
Oh, okay, fine, good. Then you have no claim for wrongful termination. You quit. Okay, so, Miss Ari, the amount of money you were requesting on this claim is $8,000. Actually, stretching your damages to as far as I can stretch them, your total damages is $682, and that's what I'm awarding you on your claim. The counterclaim is dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
Sherry is interviewed, then James.
Judge Judy always judges fair and just.
I think it was fair.
What he did was unjust to the company.
Lies and nothing but lies.
He constantly disrespected other people.
About me being a bad driver, me giving an attitude.
Constantly going off on dispatchers and just leaving so much stress within the work environment with everyone that worked with him.
I've got so many reviews. If you was to go on that website and Google, maybe about 30 of the reviews is all about me with a good attitude and everything else.
I mean, Velcro and super glue all over the car.
I don't know what she's talking about.
He did not have permission to do that.
Got on your nerves, so I guess I was just over the limit that day that, you know, all this happened, and
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, just watch out for who you work for.
Sarah and Judy.
So although Florida does have a reasonable standard for non-compete clauses and how long they can last for, just the quick research I was able to do, courts in Florida seem to deem anything under 6 months as reasonable and anything over 2 years to be unreasonable or in need of more information of why you need your non-compete clause to last for that long. So
yeah, it just didn't sound right to me. I mean, he didn't have any real intellectual property that had to be protected for a long period of time, and he earned his living by driving cars. What was supposed to do for 4 years, you know, as
cost of a vehicle she purchased from Nikolai.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Receive it, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case number 1101, Colton versus Cassidy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Colton, it is your claim that the defendant owes you the balance of a car that you originally sold to her husband.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. I read your complaint. I read her answer. There's a real paucity of hard information in your complaint. One of the things that's lacking is the month, day, and year you sold your car to her husband.
I had sold that in May of 2020. I don't know the exact day, but it was 2 months prior.
What you're telling me is you sold the car to her husband in May of 2020.
2020.
Is that correct?
No, he had sold it to him in March because he had been making payments and he had only had one payment left with him.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
I'd like to see proof that you sold her husband the car in May of 2020. What kind of car was it?
It was a 2006 Dodge Charger sedan, and I don't have any proof
Just a second. 2006 Dodge Charger sedan. Did it have any particular model number?
I do not know, Your Honor. I do have a picture of it.
I don't want to see a picture. Is it a Dodge?
It's just a Dodge Charger sedan.
When did you purchase it?
I purchased it in the spring of 2020 from a supervisor for the...
Just a second. You purchased it in the spring of the same year. Well, the spring is May. You purchased it from whom?
My supervisor that both myself and the defendant's husband had worked for.
Okay. How much did you pay for it?
$4,000.
When you say the spring of 2020, give me the month.
March.
So you bought it in March of 2020 for $4,000 and you sold it to the defendant's husband in May of 2020. How much did you sell it to him for?
He told me he wanted...
Nope. That's a number. He starts with a letter. How much did you sell it for?
$4,000.
So you bought it for $4,000, you sold it for $4,000.
Correct.
Now, did you pay the supervisor $4,000 in cash or did you owe him money?
Cash, all up front.
But when you sold it to the defendant's husband for $4,000, he was going to make payments.
Correct.
What was the down payment?
He gave me $500.
And what was he supposed to pay periodically? Monthly, weekly?
$250 a month.
So we bought it in May. Did he make June's payment of $250?
He might have, Your Honor. I don't have any record of it just because it's a completely different contract that I made with him and her.
Not to me. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you better get it together.
Yes, Your Honor.
And if that takes some time for you to take a breath, take a breath. He gave you $500 in May of 2020.
Correct, Your Honor.
Did he pay you $250 in June?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did he pay you $250 in July?
That one he had missed.
Missed. Did you take the car back?
No, Your Honor.
Nope. Did he make a payment in August?
No, Your Honor.
Did he make any other payment?
He made one or two other payments. The exact time I do not recall, but he would not show up for work. He would not text me, call me. So
You understand something, Mr. Colton. If what you are suggesting to me, which is what she suggested, but I actually thought she was crazy when she suggested this in the answer, because this is what happened. At some point, the car was impounded. Miss Cassidy said that when the car was impounded, her husband was only a short amount of funds shy of having paid you. So let's go to the month and year that the car was impounded. So far, he's paid you $750 that you remember, and maybe one or two other payments. Is that what you said to me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Which is another, if I believe you, which I don't. $500. So far that's $1,250. Now, in what month and year was the car impounded?
September of 2020.
So clearly, if the car was impounded in September of 2020 and he bought the car in May of 2020, he paid you the $250 in June of 2020. You said he made two other payments, which would have been July and August of 2020.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's $1,250. After that, the car was impounded.
Caption coming up.
Mr. Colton, and I assume that you can tell that I'm not crazy about you.
He nods.
Because you lied to me first. You lied to me once, I don't like you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Nikolai and Mika.
Nikolai Colton claims his former co-worker's wife, Mika Cassidy, owes for the balance of a car after purchasing it from Nikolai. Mika is countersuing for the title to the car.
You said he made 2 other payments, which would have been July and August of 2020.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's $1,250. After that, the car was impounded.
Correct.
So far, is that correct? That the
No,
car
Your
was
Honor, he was
impounded?
making $500 payments to him.
Okay, I would like to see proof.
I have-
No. I would like to see proof that your husband was making $500 payments to him, not the $250.
I have
Good.
the text here that he had $500 left.
Just a second.
To show that it was a payment.
Mika hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Oh, Mr. Colton. Nicole, that's you. What's up, man? Hey, I didn't ask when I handed you today's payment, but we got $500 left, right? And you responded, yep. I'll bring the title next week.
Judy glares at Nikolai.
Mr. Colton, speak. Speak.
I don't know what to say, Your Honor.
What do you want to say? You want to say I made a mistake?
I could have made a mistake, but...
Clearly, I made a mistake. So we owed you a balance as of July 2020, July 22nd, 2020, of $500, and you told him you would bring the title the following week. Then the car got impounded in September. He didn't make, clearly, August's payment, because then he would have been paid off. Now, Mr. Colton, I want you to put on your truth face. Do you understand? Truth face.
Yes, Your Honor.
When the car got impounded, he owed you $500. Now I'm putting it all together. You and his wife had a conversation about getting the car out of impound.
He nods.
I want to hear not this.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what I want to hear. And now you're going to tell me, because you didn't want to tell me before, you said, I don't want to deal with the contract I had with her husband. That was over. He didn't pay August's payment. And now the truth face, Mr. Colton, is that he owed $500. He hadn't paid it in August. Did you ever give him the title?
No, Your Honor.
Where is it? Give it to Kevin.
Nikolai produces the title, then gives it to Kevin.
Thank you. So far, you're owed $500 on this car. You had bought it 1 month, you sold it the next month. You were gracious with her husband because you paid cash for it, but you let him pay it out, but he was paying it out. Now tell me what the contract was with his wife.
I tried reaching out to her husband multiple times, and then
Just a second. Tell me what the contract was with his wife.
Ms. Cassidy had reached out to me. I have text message, phone calls. She called me saying, I understand my husband is behind on payments. Let's scratch out the contract he had made with you and make a completely new one.
Yes.
And I need to get this car out because I got my purse in there, medical records from her work. So can we please meet up today and get it out? So I said, okay, I'll draw up a contract. She had signed the contract.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
He hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
While I'm taking a look at this, Mr. Colton, and I assume that you can tell that I'm not crazy about you.
He nods.
Because you lied to me first. You lied. So anybody lies to me once, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't want to hear it. It can't be as important as what he wants to say.
Well, it's part of the conversation.
I don't care about a conversation.
Well, it has,
She was there
well,
for
it
the
has to
contract.
because
I don't
he
care.
had 2 numbers.
You have to understand
not there.
something. I don't care about your conversation. You lied to me once, I don't like you. Because the next thing that you tell me, you're going to tell me with the same look in your eye as you told me that he was making $250 a month payments, which was a lie, which you wanted me to believe. And you said it with the same look that you're giving me right now, which is I want you to believe me, what I'm saying. Do you understand?
Yes,
That's what I do for a living. So now before I look at this, she called you and said the car was impounded. Had you left it out in the street?
We had gotten pulled over, and it was because he hadn't given us anything to be able to register the car.
Okay. Well, your husband hadn't made the final payment.
Right.
Okay. I want to ask you a question before I'm going to have Kevin go over to the plaintiff. Did you pay, after the car was taken out of impound, did you make any payments to the plaintiff?
I did.
And what amount?
I have proof of those too. I believe it adds up to almost $1,750 because he kept asking for more and more.
Okay, just a second. Mr. Colton?
Yes, Your Honor.
As of today, how much money has the defendant given you after the car was removed from impound?
$1,270, Your Honor.
Okay, so far, you got $3,500 from her husband. Right, that's according to your text. You got $3,500 from her husband, plus, according to you, she may have different figures, she may show them to me, in which case you wouldn't want me to find you lying again, right?
No, Your Honor.
So she paid you $1,270, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So far, you've got $4,700 for this car that you paid $4,000 for in the spring of 2020, correct?
Correct.
Caption coming up.
You sign a contract and you're bound by it, except if the terms of the contract are so unconscionable that it shocks the conscience of the court because you actually took advantage of her.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Nikolai and Mika.
Nikolai Colton has accused his former co-worker's wife, Mika Cassidy, of breaching their contract on a Dodge Charger. Mika says the car has already been paid in full.
Now, according to you, she may have different figures, she may show them to me, in which case you wouldn't want me to find you lying again, right?
No, Your Honor.
So she paid you $1,270, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So far, you've got $4,700 for this car that you paid $4,000 for in the spring of 2020, correct?
Correct.
How much did it cost you to get the car out of impound?
$381. It's also in the contract.
Just a second. Who paid for that?
My wife did.
And then I paid them back for that. And I have proof
Just
of
a
that
second. It's your husband? Did you get paid back from the impound by the defendant? That's a yes or a no? You got paid back for that. But it took time. So far, you're ahead $700. Now, I'm going to read this contract that you had her sign, but I'm going to go back and have Whitney read back to me what you say she said to you when she said, I need to get this car out of impound because I have things in it. And you said she called you, and I want to hear right from the beginning of what he said.
He said, Miss Cassidy had reached out to me. I have text messages, phone calls. She called me saying, I understand my husband is behind on payments. Let's scratch out the contract he had made with you and make a completely new one. And I need to get this car out because I got my purse in there, medical records from her work, so we can please meet up today and get it out. So I said, okay, I'll drop the contracts.
Just a second. So would you say she sounded desperate to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
To get my things out.
Jump. I didn't ask you for anything. So far, does it sound like you're losing?
No. Your Honor.
So she sounded desperate to you. Now I'm going to read the contract you had her sign. Kevin, I'd like you to take the title over to the plaintiff and have him sign it. Sign it.
Nikolai signs the title.
Make sure he signs it in both places that he has to, Kevin. Give it to her. Please.
Kevin hands the title to Mika.
So, you have a contract with her. And so far as I'm concerned, you've been paid for this car. You've been paid for the car plus $700 for your time and trouble because you didn't make one payment and you had to go down to impound. So the only way that I can void this contract is to find that it's unconscionable, which I find. I find that it is an unconscionable contract because the contract that you had her sign in order to get her medical records, her work product, and her purse out of the car was one that started all over again the $4,000. Do you understand? It's an unconscionable contract. And people who can lie when they're under oath can also do unconscionable contracts. That's why courts have the ability to say, in most instances, contracts that people sign, even if they appear to be unfair, to one party or another. You sign a contract and you're bound by it, except if the terms of the contract are so unconscionable that it shocks the conscience of the court because you actually took advantage of her. She needed to get stuff out of the car, and instead of saying, listen, I'll be reasonable, my day was shot going to impound, you have to pay for my day $500. And you pay off the other $500 that your husband still owes on the car. That's $1,000. You didn't do that. You said you want your things out of the car. You have to sign this that we're going to start all over again and completely disregard what your husband paid me for the car already. And that, sir, is unconscionable. Your case is dismissed. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Nikolai is interviewed, then Mika.
I just thought it was just dumb.
I'm glad that she could see through it.
Well, because I couldn't even say what was actually needed to be said.
I had to sell it quick, so my husband said, I'll take it. So I made an agreement.
Well, it was 2 different contracts.
I don't know why he would think I would sign over a whole new contract to pay $8,000 for a car that was worth $1,500.
She had said, let's void the contract. Let's go with a complete new contract.
I got pulled over because the lights were melting in the back.
Because they were being reckless. They got pulled over for speeding or who knows what.
It wasn't anything to do with speeding or being reckless.
So it's on them. But if it never got impounded.
I ended up, after I got impounded, I said, we're not going to lose it over $500. So I decided to call him and tell him I'd take over the payments. I did not say anything about a new contract.
We would never be here. I probably would never heard back from them.
What he did is he bought it from their boss together.
The husband and the wife don't like the text. They don't like the call. It'd be months in between before I even hear it from anybody.
Always do it in writing. Make sure you get proof that you made payments.
So she wanted to do a new contract, but it is what it is at the end.
And that everything is in writing.
Don't trust anybody.
Judy and Sarah.
So I was trying to think of saying that sometimes people forget, your grandmother says it and then it doesn't pass down generations. But that guy in the situation there reminded me of, so I picture my grandmother saying to me, pigs get slaughtered. And not being a good human being and taking advantage of what he did. And the worst offense in the world is lying to me, because if you lie to me, I presume that you think that I'm stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very bad
the
way
worst place to be.
That's the worst place to be. So, and the contract was unconscionable, and it was done under real duress. According to him, she didn't have to open her mouth. I need my car.
And defamation of character.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy.
Thank you. Be seated.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge. Case number 1113, Van Meter versus Ellis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Van Meter, looks to me as if, from your complaint, you met the defendant online in March.
Correct.
March what?
14th.
When was the first time you saw him?
March 14th.
And when was the first time you bought him an expensive present?
April.
April what?
I'm not sure.
The expensive gift was a piece of jewelry. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I bought him a ring.
Remember how much it cost?
I believe the appraisal value is $1,200, but I think I spent $700.
Expensive present for knowing somebody 4 weeks.
It was.
And then the next month you bought him another present.
I did.
What'd you buy him this time?
I bought him a gold bracelet.
How much was that?
I believe that was just under $900.
I want you to think. In March or April, what did he buy you?
He took me to Tiffany's after we had been dating for 3 weeks and bought me a bracelet.
What kind of bracelet did he buy you?
A Tiffany bracelet. Had a little silver and blue Tiffany heart on it.
Remember how much it was?
I don't.
I have that, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Eric flips through a pile of documents.
I do have it.
I don't want to look for it right now. What else did he buy you in April or May?
In May, he bought me a birthday gift.
What?
A diamond ring.
She's referring to the engagement ring.
So you bought him a ring and a bracelet, and he brought you a bracelet from Tiffany's.
Yes.
And your birthday is when?
In June.
June what?
4th.
And when did he purchase this diamond ring?
I believe it was at the end of May.
I have the dates for those, Your Honor.
Can we get it?
Yeah.
Tell me when it was.
There was 2 transactions. One was on May 10th. The other one was on the 25th.
What happened on May 10th? Did you put a deposit down for the ring?
It was basically covering half of the cost, knowing that I would come back and pay for the other half of the ring.
So it was a deposit?
Correct.
And that was at the same jewelry store at the place where she works? She works in a building and there's a jewelry
Correct.
store
It's
there?
underneath her building, correct.
Okay, so they were familiar with you. That's where you had purchased his stuff.
The jeweler is Perry. He's a friend.
How much was the ring?
The ring was $11,500, Your Honor.
Where is it?
I don't know for sure. I'm assuming it's in the plaintiff's possession.
In any event, there came a point when the two of you were no longer a couple. And your claim is that he broke off the relationship quite quickly.
Yes.
He texted you, met you in a parking lot, and he returned all the things that you had at his home, including the two gifts that you had made to him, the ring and the bracelet.
I did not see them in the bag.
They're in the bag.
Just a second.
I know that he did give me some of my belongings back, but not all of my belongings.
I'm asking you whether he gave you back the ring and the bracelet that you bought for him.
Yes, I did not see them in the bag.
Did you look?
Yes, I did look in the bag.
And they weren't there?
They were not in the bag.
They're not at my house.
Did you put them in the bag?
Yes, Your Honor. I put them actually in plastic bags, resealable, so they wouldn't fall out.
I believe him.
Okay.
That he returned those two things to you that you had purchased for him. Now, it is your claim that during that time, prior to the breakup, you had transferred to him $2,100 for your half of travel expenses for 2 trips that you were planning.
Correct.
In what month, day, and year did you transfer that $2,100?
I have it right here.
Aaron flips through documents.
Your Honor, I have the date of the Tiffany's bracelet here.
Good. I'd like to see the...
Aaron hands a document to Kevin.
Just cost of the bracelet because he looked for it and found it.
He hands it to Judy.
Highlight with Tiffany.
Eric hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
On June 16th of 2021, did she transfer $1,000 into your bank account?
Yes, she paid me by Venmo. I do have that $1,000.
Okay. And on June 11th, oh, I'm not dealing with this. That's the Gmail. That's NC and Jim and Amazon Music Upgrade,
It was for the
$400.
North Carolina
I don't
trip.
care.
It was
I don't.
$400
Listen
for
to
the
me.
North Carolina
I don't care. I don't get involved in people who are dating together, who are commingling money, unless I could actually pinpoint it. This says transfer date. This is Vegas baby, $1,000. That I could see. Period. End of discussion.
Judy consults another document.
And the Tiffany bracelet was $300.
Correct.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to see if it was, you know, it could be a Tiffany bracelet or it could be a trinket. In this case,
it was from Tiffany's.
In this case, it was from Tiffany's. It was a trinket.
Yep.
But the ring that you bought for $11,500 is not a trinket. Can I see the bill for that?
I have the actual.
Just a second.
Okay.
Don't say anything.
Sorry.
Just give it to me. Now, on what date did you finally say I had it, whatever it is? It's not working.
July 30th.
7:30. And on June 16th, she sent a deposit for a trip to Vegas. And it says that you paid Eric Ellis $1,000.
Correct.
I want to know, was that for a trip that was supposed to take place in the future?
Correct.
Okay.
We were supposed to take a vacation to Las Vegas for Labor Day weekend. And before Labor Day weekend, I broke it off.
Okay.
And I canceled all our plans, our trips. And
So this was in June and you broke up on July 30th?
Correct.
So you still had the whole month of August and whatever, and every place that I know has a 30-day cancellation policy. So what was this $1,000 used for?
The $1,000, she sent me half of the cost for it for the trip.
Okay, that's all. That's an honest answer. Where is the ring he bought you?
Caption coming up.
I don't believe you. Somebody who's a jewelry nut, like you are, who buys somebody the first minute that they see him, that they breathe on him, a bracelet, next breath, a ring, knows exactly where this $12,000 ring is.
And later today.
I mean, that means that you got to drive a car for nothing, you got the full value of the car, and then you've got $19,000 for being in an accident. That sounds to me unreasonable. That sounds to me unreasonable.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Aaron and Eric.
Erin Van Meter claims her ex-fiancé, Eric Ellis, owes for the cost of 2 canceled trips. Eric is countersuing for the cost of an engagement ring.
Now, where is the ring he bought you?
I'm not sure. I believe that it might be in Lake Minnetonka. I was really drunk and I lost it.
Oh, that's really too bad. That's really too bad. Then you don't get your $1,000 back. Do you understand?
Even though
Period. Even though nothing. He spent $12,000 on a ring, which I guarantee you have. Guaranteed you have, that I would make you return to him. And if you're not going to return it to him, you're not getting anything. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Period. Now, you want to return the ring to him?
I don't have it.
Yeah, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Somebody who's a jewelry nut, like you are, who buys somebody the first minute that they see him, that they breathe on him, a bracelet, the next breath, a ring, knows exactly where this $12,000 ring is. Knows exactly where the $12,000 ring is. So the only thing that I have to address in my mind is, on what date did you give her this ring?
It was May 29th.
And how do you know that?
I have pictures. I have, wrote it down. We took pictures.
I'd like to see the pictures.
I'll have to pull it up from my phone. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the day we celebrated my birthday with my sister.
I don't care. Do you understand?
My sister can witness to the fact that we chose May 28th to celebrate my birthday.
I don't care. I don't believe you don't have the ring. Do you understand?
I do understand what you're saying.
I don't believe that you don't have the ring. You want to show me what this $12,000 ring looked like?
I probably have that too, Your Honor.
As Eric scrolls through his phone, Judy consults a document, then turns to Aaron.
Okay, this is from your friend, by the way, who you say is a friend of yours, Perry Jeweler. He wrote on the receipt, engagement ring.
I'm not denying that it was a double gift of an engagement and birthday present. It was both.
Listen, just like I don't believe you don't know where the ring is, once you lie to me once, you don't get a chance to not do it again. Yeah, it was an engagement ring, and you should have given it back to him. And if he doubled it as a birthday present, then he's very smart.
When he broke up with me, he said I could keep it, and I have his email.
I did not say that, Your Honor.
Okay, if you have an email that says you can keep the ring, I'm more than happy to take a look at it. But your jeweler describes the ring as an engagement ring, and if it's an engagement ring, it goes back to him.
Aaron hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it, then turns to Eric.
Well, what I'm telling you, sir, is you are mistaken because you answered her. You did discuss with her returning the ring, and she says, I'm not returning the ring to you because you could say you never got it. So I guess I have to have an attorney take me to court. And that was August 4th. So you must have lost it after August 4th.
I did.
I did. And then he says, because he hadn't spoken to anybody yet, I know I don't have any legal rights to demand the ring back from you. Well, yes, you do.
I realized that, Your Honor.
Well,
That's
because yes, you do. Because an engagement ring is a gift given in contemplation of marriage. And if the marriage doesn't take place, irrespective, in my legal world and in many jurisdictions, if the marriage doesn't take place, then the contract is broken. Now, you can get married and divorced and you get to keep the ring, but you don't get engaged and don't get married and get to keep the ring.
It was also a birthday gift.
Did you understand what I said?
Yes.
Also doesn't make any difference. If he did a twofer, that's terrific. That's smart for him. But it's an engagement ring. That's what your friend, the jeweler, said. Your claim is dismissed against him. And the maximum jurisdiction I have is $10,000. She says she lost the ring. I can't wring it out of her. She's lying. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim for $10,000. We're finished.
Court is adjourned.
Eric, then Aaron.
She wants money, and she's desperate to have money, and she tricked and manipulated me to do all that.
I was being taken advantage of the day he broke up with me and said I could keep the ring.
The judge clearly pointed out that she gave me a far amount of gifts than I gave her to try and hook me.
I really don't know. I got really drunk and I lost it in a lake, and that was after August 4th, after he said I could keep it.
She still has it. Of course she does.
He was out there dancing on TikTok, smiling how he ended another relationship after I was gutted and destroyed. And now he's back online dating.
None of it makes sense to me.
I've learned to honor my boundaries and that online dating should really be considered auditioning for future datelines.
Be careful and take my time.
I'm going to get a do not contact order.
Judy.
I know that there is different rules in jurisdictions about an engagement ring. I've been consistent for 26 years that I believe an engagement ring is given in contemplation of marriage, which is a contract. And irrespective of how that contract is breached, if the condition precedent to making it a gift is never met because the marriage doesn't take place, then whoever purchased the engagement ring gets it back. I think once the marriage takes place and the reason, or not the reason, that the marriage dissolves, the condition precedent to the gift has been met, the parties got married, you get to keep the ring. But in this case, she made an excuse that it was a birthday gift because she really knew in her head that if it was an engagement ring, she should have returned it. And I don't believe her. I do believe that he returned the bracelet and he returned the ring to her in the hope of getting the engagement ring back, because that's what the email said. You know, he expected to get that back. And she said, I'm not giving it to you back. You'll say you never got it. And then she told me she lost it. I don't believe her. The right thing happened.
It did.
Case number 1124, Stop versus Urbina. All parties, please step forward.
Christine Stop is suing her boyfriend's cousin, Antonio Urbina, for the cost of a vehicle she purchased from Antonio.
Miss Stop, this is your boyfriend. You've been together for about 12 years, according to your complaint, and this is your boyfriend's cousin. Years ago, because you don't indicate a year, you purchased a car from Mr. Urbina. In what year did you purchase the car from him?
2016.
What month in 2016?
January.
What kind of a car did you purchase?
2000 Mercedes.
What kind?
S430.
Got it? How much did you pay him for it?
$6,000.
You don't dispute that?
Yes, I do.
You dispute that?
Yeah.
What do you dispute about
What I remember was it was 5,000, and I want to say if she's asking.
No, not asking. I asked you a simple question.
Yeah,
She
okay,
bought the
simple.
car in January of 2016. Is that correct?
Yes,
You dispute the fact that she paid $6,000 for it.
I remember 5,000.
Do you have any proof that you paid $6,000?
I have a witness that saw me hand him the money, and I have proof that I was verifying balances with him for the payments he was making 3 years after the vehicle because he was incarcerated. He started making me payments after.
Caption coming up.
What I don't see is you taking into consideration the 9 months that you drove the car.
But I couldn't drive it the whole time.
I don't care. I don't know whether you couldn't drive the car because the car was sick or because you were sick. I don't know.
Christine nods. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Christine and Antonio.
Christine Staub claims her boyfriend's cousin, Antonio Urbina, is responsible for the cost of the car.
Okay. Value?
Based on a 90,000 mile estimate, it says between 3,000 and 4,800 for a private party exchange.
That's today. Those are based on today's numbers.
Yes.
But not back in 2016. That's why we usually do things promptly. So 6 is probably a reasonable number. Okay. This is your problem. According to you, you drove the car from January 2016 until you were involved in an accident. What month and year were you involved in an accident?
October of 2016. That's when I found out he
Just
didn't.
stop. Don't tell me found out.
Okay.
So you drove the car in January, February, March. Your accident was in October.
Correct. But there was 4 months that the car was not working.
I don't care.
Okay.
You drove the car. It was in your possession.
Yes.
In January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. What did you have the accident?
I believe October 12th.
So let's say you drove the car for 9 months. Then you had an accident that was not your fault.
Correct.
According to you. And there was an insurance payout.
Correct.
And the insurance payout went to whom?
A dealership that still owned the vehicle.
Because there was a note on the car.
Yes, which...
Just a second. There was a note on the car.
Yes.
How much of a note?
5863.77.
Did you get any money at all from this accident?
For injuries.
How much did you get?
19,000.
What injuries did you suffer?
I had hurt my knee. I fractured a vertebrae. My neck was injured.
What kind of
my
work?
wrist.
What kind of work did you do prior to the accident?
I've been disabled for the last 8 years.
What was the nature of your disability?
I got very sick and was hospitalized for 3 months and had to have a rib resection and part of my lung removed and had to get work done on my back.
What was wrong with your back?
I have osteoarthritis and I have degenerative disc disease and spinal stenosis, and I've had an implant put in my spine now and everything.
Okay. After this accident, were you hospitalized on October 12th? That's a yes or a no?
We were brought to the ER and then released. I'm sorry.
So the answer was you were not hospitalized?
No.
Were you hospitalized October 13th?
No.
14th?
No.
15th?
No.
16th?
No.
Okay. So whatever injuries that you suffered from that car accident were not sufficient to be hospitalized, and you got $19,000 for the injuries.
Yes.
Now, you drove the car for 9 months and you went to jail. And then you started making payments to her towards this money that she put in the car, because there was still a note on the car that was absorbed. And you drove the car, you had the car in your possession for 9 months, which you don't get for free.
Yes, but I also paid their tickets when I registered the vehicle, $650.
I'm actually not interested in that.
Okay.
This claim is 5 years old. Ordinarily, I would say goodbye to you all. But I'm going to be a nice person and resolve it. Because what you're asking for is, of the $6,000, he paid you back more than half, right? So you say there's a balance of $2,700, $2,750.
Yes.
What I don't see is you taking into consideration the 9 months that you drove the car. Even if you paid minimally $300 a month for a rental, 9 times 3 is 27. I mean, that means that you got to drive a car for nothing, you got the full value of the car, and then you got $19,000 for being in an accident. That sounds to me unreasonable. That sounds to me unreasonable.
But I couldn't drive it the whole time.
I don't care.
Okay.
That's why you bring an action promptly. Do you understand?
Right.
You understand? I don't know whether you couldn't drive the car because the car was sick or because you were sick. I don't know. All I know is you can't rent a Mercedes to drive around a Mercedes for less than $300 a month. And you drove the car for 9 months. You had it in your possession. That's $2,700. That means he doesn't owe you anything. He's finished. On this car deal so far, you made $3,000 on the car, a little bit more, $19,000 for an accident for which you were not hospitalized. I think, Ms. Stapp, we're done. Goodbye.
Paid over $4,000 to her.
Just a second. You don't have a counterclaim. And if you paid over $4,000, you're a really nice guy.
Appreciate
okay?
that.
What she's not factoring in is she drove the car on somebody's dime for 9 months.
Exactly.
Okay, we're done here.
Court is adjourned.
Antonio, then Christine.
You know, it sounds pretty accurate to me.
I don't think it was fair. You know, I paid off all their tickets and
I thought I did good by even paying what I paid, so.
fees for them and let them, you know, basically sell me. They sold me a car that they told me they owned that they didn't.
I don't know, she had this conspiracy theory about like me and my cousin, like we're in cahoots to like get this money from her or something. Like, I really don't know, to be honest.
Oh no, he's just throwing stones. They did this. They intentionally sold me a car they didn't own. You know, and they started it, so.
Yeah, it's really just her. I don't know why she has to put this strain on us.
Yeah, I will not be loaning cousins money or buying anything from cousins ever again.
Judy and Sarah.
I think that the plaintiff made out pretty well in that case. I mean, I'm certain that the accident was unpleasant, but it wasn't unpleasant enough to require any hospitalization. And she got $19,000 for pain and suffering and injury from an insurance company because she was probably hit in the rear. This guy paid her, he says $4,000. She says a little bit less because he felt as if it was the right thing to do. But now she's got $23,000 from what he gave her and this hit in the rear that she got $19,000 for. And then she drove around in a Mercedes that she purchased for 9 months for free. I just thought that that was sort of unconscionable.
Sullivan is suing her former business partner, Kayla Phillips, for dog show costs, boarding fees, and RV storage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters, then takes her seat behind the bench.
Hello, Judge.
Be seated, please.
Case 1038 Sullivan versus Phillips.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, there are so many pieces to this case. It's like a puzzle. I'm going to have to separate it a little bit at a time. Miss Sullivan, you're involved in probably breeding and showing dogs.
Yes.
What kind of dogs?
Berger Picards and French Bulldogs, and I co-own a Beauceron.
Do you have pictures of those dogs?
Yes, I
I'd
do.
like to see. I know what a French Bulldog looks like. I'm just curious to see what the others look like.
I have a picture of the Beauceron, and this is a picture of my Westminster top 10 Berger Picard. They're both herding dogs.
Judy looks at a photo of a dog.
Handsome.
She looks at a second photo of Marianne with a spotted dog.
Handsome. Okay, and what kind of dogs are you involved in?
I have Beaucerons and Connie Corzos.
Okay, this is what I gathered. The two of you met at some sort of a show and you became friends. You, Miss Sullivan, who had been in the business for a long time, decided that you would mentor the defendant and you moved, you had a house trailer?
An RV.
An RV. That Miss Sullivan allowed you to move on to her property. And on your property, you said you keep dog kennels because in addition to showing dogs, you also, I assume, board them?
I just was starting to board them when Kayla moved over.
That would have been a good thing to have someone assist you because you do traveling and you do traveling for shows, whatever. Anyway, so it sounded as if it was a good idea to work out. The lawsuit has several parts. There came a parting of the ways of the two of you that was unpleasant, and that had to do with the fact that Miss Phillips was boarding dogs for someone else for a fee, Dobermans, I believe, and she went off to do a show with one of her dogs. Asked you and you agreed to mind those dogs. I assume you were getting paid for taking care of those dogs. And those dogs got into a scuffle with some of your dogs. Some of your dogs were injured. You tried to intervene. You were bitten by one of the dogs. Miss Phillips didn't come home fast enough for you. She said, I would come home when I finished the show. She came home. There was another bit of a kerfuffle where you alleged she assaulted you by pushing you. You weren't injured, but it's part of your counterclaim, so that's nonsense. And she left. You claim that she owes you for several things. You claim that she owes you for an RV hookup, which I assume means whatever she did with her RV, almost like rent. Miss Phillips says there was never an agreement for rent. You never discussed rent with her when she moved her RV onto your property. Number two, you say she owes you her share of a trip to the National Dog Show, which you covered expenses for, and you also want the money that she received for boarding the Dobermans because you were the one who watched them and not her. Yeah. She has a counterclaim. She says you owe her money for dog show fees. She says you assaulted her, which is nonsense, and I don't understand what photography services you're talking about. I think it's all a lot of nonsense, but I will get to it and dispose of it quickly. Tell me about the arrangement for hookup fees and rent when she moved in, and tell me the date she moved her RV onto your property.
She moved on April 12th of this year.
On what date did she move move out?
She moved out on the 17th of May.
So 1 month she stayed?
Yes.
And what was she supposed to pay you for putting her RV on your property?
Well, the RV, I'm going to let that month go, but when she left under the circumstances, I let her know that I was going to start charging her the going rate of $40 a day for storage.
You mean when she left?
And then she didn't.
Just say, just because you told her that you were going to start to charge her doesn't mean that you had a contract. Did she say, okay? Did she say, I agree to that?
No. We didn't speak after the dog attack and she
Well,
left.
then that's not a contract. If she left her stuff there, you could have disposed of it. What did you do with her stuff?
Well, she told me I was extorting her and brought the cops, and I allowed her dad to
Just a second, did they pick up the stuff? Fine. Well, you didn't have a contract with her. You can't have a contract made by one side. A contract has to be the meeting of the minds with two people. So let's get over that nonsense. Now, how much money were you supposed to give her for your share of going to the National Dog Show?
Originally, our agreement was that she was going to use her companion ticket with Alaska, and that was going to be $100. And in return for that, I was showing her dog for her at the AKC National Dog Show.
Okay, so she was going to use her companion ticket, plus you were going to give her $100.
No, the companion ticket was going to be a fee of $100 through Alaska at her purchase price for the ticket.
Did you work for the airlines?
No, I did not. Here's the bills with her name on it for her ticket and the
May I see
upgrade
it?
to have the dogs in bulkhead, and me paying for her dog show fee and half the hotel.
Judy reviews a document.
I'm listening. I'm adding and listening.
Kayla grins. Caption coming up.
And that's when she marched up to me and she grabbed my arm that was holding the keys with one hand and my shirt with the other, and she shook me and she was like, give me my keys, and cursed at me.
So you reached into the car and you got out her car key.
I did.
Marianne's mouth gapes open. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Marianne and Kayla.
Marianne Sullivan claims her former business partner, Kayla Phillips, owes for the cost of dog shows and boarding fees. Kayla is countersuing for dog showing fees and an assault.
I'm listening. I'm
So
adding and listening.
Originally, the agreement was that I would show her dog for her while we went. And then after the fact that we agreed on the dates, she then informed me that the ticket was $650 instead of our agreed upon $100.
Well, if she didn't get it, she didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you make any payments to her?
No.
With regard
She didn't inform me that she had actually paid the $650 for the ticket, and she did that without consulting me first, because I made it clear that I wasn't wanting to spend those expenses to go to the dog show in the first place.
What else? Boarding fees. What kind of boarding fees are you talking about?
She charged $2,000 a dog to board and train, which was $66 a day for her. I charged $35 a day to take care of a dog and kennel him. So 10 days that I took care of, I'm only charging her for the 2 Dobermans because I took care of her 4 dogs and 7 goats.
Well, just a second. Did you have an agreement with regard to that? Is my question.
Yes, she said
just
that
a
we
second.
would.
Let's go back. Tell me what agreement you had, when it was made, where it was made, what the discussion was.
We both agreed.
No, not we both agreed. That's a conclusion.
We discussed that
When?
the month before she moved in.
The month before she moved in,
if I took
you
care
said
of the
to her,
dogs, I would get a board fee of the days that I was alone with the dogs when she was traveling, and then she would get the rest while she was there.
Did you have that discussion with her?
No. We didn't actually discuss anything, because when I approached her about discussing what our plan was, I got shuffled off like, oh, we'll talk about it next week. So we never officially discussed anything.
Well, how could you talk about boarding the month before she moved in?
She had planned to bring the Dobermans with her.
Were you permanently taking care of the Dobermans?
No.
When did you start to take care of the Dobermans?
The 13th of April.
So the Dobermans came in with you the day after you moved onto the property?
Yeah, they arrived with their owner, but it wasn't just me. Like, this was a joint thing that we were trying to start, but she wasn't very communicative about our agreement. She just didn't want to talk about it till later. And so I was a little confused as how it was working, and I was taking care of the dogs and doing all the training stuff except when I left for the dog show.
And you left for the dog show on what date?
I left on the 14th of May.
All right, so let me try to understand this, Miss Phillips. I want you to explain to me what you brought to the table. So far, she's giving you the property on which to put your RV so that you can live. She's providing the property and the kennels for your own dogs and for dogs that you're going to be boarding. She's providing the expenses to travel to the dog show.
So
airfare, hotel, fees for registering the dog. You must have gotten paid from the Doberman owners.
I did.
You did. And how much did you get paid?
$2,000.
A day? A month?
Per month.
Was that for both dogs?
Per dog.
Per dog. So you got $4,000 for the month.
I was also in charge of their expenses while they're there, their food.
So you got $4,000.
Plus she had a German Shepherd.
Their titling.
How much of the $4,000 did you share with the plaintiff?
None.
Take a breath. How much?
None.
None. Okay. So now I'm still confused. When you left on May 14th, you left her in charge of the dogs for just those 4 days. And the dog that you went to show was your dog or her dog?
I brought 5 dogs with me. I delivered one of her puppies to their puppy owner on my way down there.
Whose dogs were they?
They are all either owned or co-owned by me.
Owned by you and co-owned with the plaintiff or someone else?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong?
With someone else. I did bring
so
our
that you
co-owned
brought
dog. One of them was our co-owned dog.
Okay, is that
But
correct?
She was only there to get her eyes tested, not to be shown.
But she brought her.
Yes, she
and
did.
she was in charge of her.
Yes.
Okay. And was that a trip that you went to by car or by air?
By car.
How far was it?
It's a 6-hour drive.
Okay, so far you owe her $650. And how much do you think she owes you for kenneling the dogs?
I figured that she made $4,000 for both the dogs. I took care of both dogs for 10 days.
No, did you make a contract with her?
Okay, but I
don't care what you figured. Do you
but
understand?
She was going to pay me board if I took care of her paid dogs.
Is that correct?
No, because we never discussed it.
No, I don't believe that that's true. She owes you $650. Now let's get to your counterclaim.
Well, I also, when I was at the property...
Just a second. Now, the counterclaim, dog show fees, what is that about?
So when I show her dogs for her...
Not when. Give me a date you showed her dog for her and she didn't pay you a fee.
I showed the dogs January 16th to the 19th.
I'm not interested.
Okay.
Keep going. Anytime. After April, when you all decided to move in. Yes, together. Let's go.
No. I
Nothing.
did not show her
Okay,
dogs.
good. What are photography fees?
So I took professional photos of her 4-week-old puppies for her to use for her advertisements.
And what was your agreement?
There was no verbal agreement.
Perfect. So you had no contract. Now you're
Yes,
going to
but
describe.
it's
Now you're going to describe the assault.
So when I returned back from the dog show, it was late. It was almost midnight.
10 o'clock. I was up.
So I got there. I got all the dogs settled in, and I went to bed. I got up in the morning. Got up around 6:30. I took care of all of the animals, all my dogs and the goats that were on the property. And I then was putting all the dog show stuff away. And she came out, and I waved, and I was carrying a crate, finished putting that away. By the time I came back out of the shed, putting things away, she was walking back into the house. I went in to my RV. She texted me, like, I'm really sad you're avoiding me, and to come out, and she needed the money from the puppy.
Did you give her the money for the puppy?
I gave her the money.
How much was the puppy?
The puppy was a total of $3,500, but I think that there was only $3,000 in cash because the deposit had already been paid, over $500. And so I gave her that, and when I came out to give that to her, she was in her truck, and I go up, and I said, I was hoping that we could talk this afternoon about everything that happened when I was gone.
Everything you mean the fight where she was bitten?
Yeah, the fight that she separated incorrectly. And talk about that, and she cut me off, and she was like, Kayla, I am the most important thing in your life, and I feel very unimportant because you did not come in this morning to take care of me or my animals.
Okay.
Caption coming up.
What do you mean she tried to push you? Either she pushed you or not?
She did push me, and I just sat down so I didn't fall off the steps, trying to get into the RV to get the dog out that she thought she was.
But she didn't?
She did not, no, because I sat down, and then she couldn't move me after that.
Marianne shakes her head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Marianne and Kayla.
Marianne Sullivan has accused her former business partner, Kayla Phillips, of moving off her property without paying her share of dog show costs and boarding fees.
Keep going.
And at that point, it kind of just escalated to the point where she was kind of just talking about everything that she didn't like about how I was there and when I was there and everything like that. And I said, Marianne, I'm really sorry that I made you feel unimportant. That wasn't my intention. And that, you know, I understand that it's not working and it's okay. And I'm happy to go home. And then she decided that she wanted our co-owned Beauceron dog Scout back. And I told her that that wasn't our agreement because 2 weeks before I moved, she called me and verbally returned the dog, saying that she couldn't handle the dog anymore. And so that's when it just started to escalate because I refused to give the dog to her. And then she decided to take one of my dogs instead. So she went in and got my dog and was dragging my dog to the car. And I got nervous and scared. And so I had her truck keys in my hands and I was holding it. And I was like...
So you reached in to the car and you got out her car keys?
I did. And I was holding them and I was like, please let my dog go. Like, this situation is making me entirely uncomfortable and I think we just need to take a deep breath and talk about it when you get back. I'll be here. And that's when she marched up to me and she grabbed my arm that was holding the keys with one hand and my shirt with the other, and she shook me and she was like, give me my keys, and cursed at me. And I just kind of held them as far as I could away from my body. She let go of my arm to grab the key and I slipped the leash off the dog. The dog immediately came behind me and I went to my RV and got on the steps and just stood in front of them and I repeated that I was uncomfortable with the situation, that I was getting scared and that I think that we just need to take a breather. And that's when she tried to push me out of the way off the steps of the RV.
What do you mean she tried to push you? Either she pushed you or not?
She did push me and I just sat down so I didn't fall off the steps.
Okay.
And trying to get into the RV to get the dog out that she thought she was.
But she didn't?
She did not, no, because I sat down and then she couldn't move me after that.
Okay. And then she left in her truck?
After yelling at me for several minutes.
Okay, but she left in her truck?
She did.
Okay, and then you left?
Well, I called several people. I called my mom and one of my good friends because I've lived a very sheltered life. I've never been treated like that by another person ever.
Okay. But you left that day?
I did leave that day.
And did you leave the RV?
I did.
So you left the RV on the property?
Yes.
And what about the dogs?
I took all the dogs and I took my goats.
And where did you take them?
I took them to my mom's house in Washington.
Okay. When did you come back for the RV?
I messaged her that evening saying that I was really sad about the situation and that I was thinking of her. Then the next day I texted her saying that my dad would be, because my dad has the truck that can pull the RV because it's a fifth wheel. And I told her, I said my dad would be back this week from Arizona and that I could come on Saturday to come receive it. And she responded was, all contact will be through my lawyer moving forward. And then I never heard from her again.
When did you go and get the RV?
So she sent me a certified letter saying that it was abandoned.
Can I see the letter?
Yeah.
Can I see?
Kayla hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
You must have the letter. Where's the letter? It's a copy of the letter.
Well, the letter was sent to not my house. So it was sent to my grandparents' house in Boring, Oregon.
That's the address you used?
Okay.
Judy reviews the letter.
Okay, so on June 21st, you wrote to her that it's been 30 days without arrangements of money owed and removal. Per Oregon statute, I have to inform you of the removal. If you wish to get the items, please bring cash. On Saturday, that will be $5,822. Well, you already now understand that you can't have a one-sided contract.
Yes.
Okay. Did she finally remove the RV?
Her father removed most of her contacts that day and was to come back Monday or Tuesday, and he did not come back to get the rest of her stuff.
So what did you do with the rest of her stuff?
I put it out on the road, and people picked it up.
Okay, but he removed the RV?
Yes.
Very unfortunate.
I actually have a sworn statement from my dad.
I don't read sworn statements.
Because he did talk.
Just a second. I don't read sworn statements, and you can't tell me what he said, because that's hearsay. And you don't have a case on a counterclaim. You do owe her $650 for the cost of going to the dog show. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much. Court adjourned.
Kayla is interviewed, then Marianne.
I think that Marianne, when I moved to the property, assumed that I was going to be taking care of everything on the property and not just maintaining the business that we were trying to start together.
Actually, I did a lot more work. She worked with the dogs, and not every day, which she was charging for.
Extremely upset that I didn't conform to how she felt like I should handle the situation, and unfortunately, that just wasn't possible.
And I had him 10 of the 30 days, so there wasn't a lot of training going on. And, I learned that I don't want to take care of another person.
Well, now we'll see her when I see her.
Well, I won't do that again, and I am very sorry that I was such a poor judge of character.
Sarah.
That case showed that one important thing I learned in law school is that you can't make a contract with yourself. You can't decide on terms and make an agreement and sign it one-sided.
Yeah, that's true. And that's true even if the terms are reasonable. And plaintiff had perfectly reasonable terms, but they were agreed to only with herself. So you need to...
Mutual assent.
Yes, mutual consent to make a contract.
Wait!